again. Welcome back for the final time, at least for something like this. This is my final project for CS 457 computer graphics shaders at Oregon State University, where I have created these waves. and I'm so excited. It was frustrating. Um, well, it was only frustrating at one certain point, but after I was able to get that figured out, it went pretty swimmingly. Okay. Anyways, so right here, what's going on is there's actually three waves, and you can kind of see the different ridges. I believe that it's easier to kind of see the oceanic behavior. I was going to say just water-esque behavior, but I do have this. The timing is specifically set to uh, like the actual intermittent period of the ocean waves and how swiftly they move, or really not swiftly, because they tend to just kind of be rolling and kind of roll across here. So let's dig in a little more. So let's just, oh, real quick, because I know that I can do this. Let's give a quick little just overview of all of the different variables here. From here down has is lighting, color, making it look all fancy. From here up is everything to do with the waves themselves and the actual vertices being altered. And they're so with three waves going on here, and I had tried implementing more. It just became a little clustered, and it lost, not that it lost definition, it just seemed not necessary. So I stuck with three, and all of these waves are able to be turned on and off. As you can see here, we have a Boolean variable which is set to true for each of the waves. But if I were to take off wave one, it really it doesn't like it. It doesn't like removing the first wave. So we're gonna always keep the first wave in true. The other two waves could come off just fine, and we'll actually start from there. So this is the first wave, and I have it in such a way that the light position can show like the differences between the light and the dark, because I wanted to be able to have not just like the bright, smooth sunshine waves that you get in like the California coast, I guess. I wanted some depth as well, which I think I really mostly achieved because of the noise that I have also implemented. And when here, let's just go ahead and get a little zoom in here. I really love looking at this. So let's go ahead and get a little zoom in here. And I'm going to take away the noise, which is fully set to 1. I really love having noise in the project. But now we can see, like, there's no noise here. It's just a smooth sort of movement. Let's go ahead and scale back out just to kind of see how the wave is moving. Let's also take off the variables. We don't need all the variables around. And let's try to position this back in center. All right, so yeah, we can see the darkness over here, lighter parts over here. The highlight seems to be right about here, and we can increase that shininess and decrease it. And then, of course, ambient diffuse specular lighting. Let me just, so there's ambient, right? We like to have that at a reasonable value to be able to show depth. And then diffuse to be able to get those shadows to diffuse, or show more light. And then specular, which increases that point, which obviously can be too much. Like that's like about to become a laser off the ocean. So let's go ahead and take that back down. Yeah, it's something reasonable. All right, and then so the wave right now, as you can see it, the one singular wave is being moved in a horizontal, well, not horizontal, excuse me, in a diagonal sort of pattern, right? So if we like tilted it onto this, we would see that, this end sort of kind of begins a ripple, as I kind of envision it similar to a sheet. If you were taking a sheet and just trying to, I don't know, get the wrinkles out before you fit it to your bed. Of course, in a much slower fashion. So it's, Oh, and I should mention, I did try to add a variable to the constant that I have for the speed. However, it would create a similar issue to if I had this. It would generate and I don't really know why, because I would reflect it through, or I would repeat it through the the normals process as well as just the vertices. But anyways, let's continue. So as I was saying before, this is going into a diagonal, and this is dependent on I'll pop them up again. So the UDX and the UDY, just for the specific one wave. And right now they're both set to 0.5, which when they're equal, they both go in the same direction. So if I was to take this up to 1, it'll continue to move in that diagonal direction. But if I were to take it down to, so if I take y down to 0, then it begins to move along the x. See, so it's moving from negative x to positive x. And then if I were to do the same to the x value, it instead moves from negative y to positive y. So by being able to have both of these variables set, you can have it go into a diagonal. But then that also means that the other waves can have different angles which interact with the quad itself. But before we bring in more of them, I want to show off the other properties of the one wave, which is U wavelength and U steep. So wavelength refers to the period of the wave. So if I were to have it set to 5 right now, then it's just kind of, let's take away the variables real fast. So you can see that it's like very, you can see the wave happening, but is much, much like, it's not a wave. It's a sheet. So now if I were to bring wavelength back down, we get the multiple waves start to come in, and to a point where we could have like ripples even. Let's bring that back to about 0.8-ish. And U steep, by comparison, controls how high the steep of the wave comes up. And we get some interesting lighting because of this. I think it's because it's still processing the normals regardless of the waves being there. And I'm not quite sure why, because it's all dependent on, well, I guess it's dependent on if the wave is active or not. So if it's not active, it's going to continue to compute these normals anyways. So that's why you kind of, I mean, for waves anyways, you don't really want a flat plane wave. So you really want to keep the steepness up anyways. And then as soon as you get the steepness up, you get the behavior of the lights hitting here. Let's see. There we go. Got a nice steepness now. So now let's add in a second wave. So this wave is set so that way it is, so y being 1 and x being 0, it should be moving in the vertical direction. And I wish I could just check it on its own, but you can kind of see based off of this one here. So let's take out one. So then you can see starting from, like, I don't know, the mid section, you can see it's moving forward rather than also diagonally. But both waves are still happening in tandem. So now I can change the wavelength of this as well. You can see easier now the first wave because I've expanded the second wave and it is much larger. But if I were to bring it in, I could have a bunch of ripples which seem to like go off into a diagonal direction. And of course, the same as before, these can have their steepness changed and their wavelength changed. Oh, and I just realized I never brought back up the noise amp. Let's do that. There we go. Oh, that's beautiful. All right. So, yeah, so we're playing with the wavelengths, playing with the steepness of the waves. Let's go ahead and manipulate this wave now just so that way we can see the funky happenings again. And depending, like, you can begin to get these like sort of hexagon shapes in the wave if you're not careful. It looks not quite like organic. Something about here maybe looks a little bit better, I know that when I definitely had this project in mind, I wanted the idea of like when waves came together, they would react to one another. However, I couldn't find the math on that. Already took me a long enough time to try to wrap my head around Gerstner waves in general, but I do think I did a good job overall. Let's go ahead and see here. So yeah, we could change the steepness here. So now the wave 2 is completely flat, and you can still see how wave 1 is affecting the quad. And so now I can bring up steep 2 again, which also, affected on the X and Y axes. But for the purposes of going on to 3, I'm going to leave it about here. So now let's bring in the third wave just for fun. I don't really think I need to go into abouts of all the steepness and stuff, but let's go ahead and play a little bit. There's the steepness of 1, and then I'll take down that was the steepness of 3. I'll take down the steepness of 2. But you can see that it kind of just creates these different pockets of the hexagons that I had just said. So it's like different sizes of hexagons, which makes it feel a little bit more natural. Um, just for posterity's sake, let's, move around the light, see the higher points of the waves and the lower points that are being dropped down. I do like to try to keep it on this side though, just so that way I can see a light versus a dark. And I don't know, for fun, let's change the color. Let's see. Let's go for, honestly, I love it when the water gets hit by the sun and gets like a little pinky. Ah, okay, let's go back to blue. Everybody likes blue water. There we go. Let me see, what else can I show off? Honestly, I don't think I have anything else to show off. I think that's it. I'm really sad. Um, yeah, I don't know. I had a great time with this project. It was it was a lot of fun to try to figure out. After a lot of searching, I was able to find a what is it? It's a tutorial for Gerstner waves, but it was done in Unity, and so I had to sort of translate the functionality that was written for Unity into OpenGL, which wasn't like too bad. It was mostly translating a lot of floats into vectors, but it was a good learning experience overall to be able to transfer knowledge from one core foundation to another, because Unity and OpenGL, they can be similar, but they're also pretty different in terms of what they can produce. Um, so yeah, thank you so much for watching. I hope that you enjoyed it. Let's get one, or you know what? There's one thing that I wanted to do. I really love when I like bring up the blue here and I swing it around and I pick the right thing and I scale in, right? And so you can like, oh, I miss the ocean. Miss it. I haven't seen the ocean in so long. There we go. And yeah, that's where I'll leave it. So thank you so much for watching all of my videos in relation to these computer science projects. I have had the most tremendous fun time the last, I don't know, 6 or so months just with these projects alone. It's it's been wonderful. So thank you so much, Professor Bailey, if you do end up watching this. Um, and yeah, thank you so much, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye.